Who dares enter my domain? Years passed since Tari's imprisonment, and the village slowly recovered from the shock of his actions. Tari's wife, Adana, found herself thrust into a new role as the sole provider for her children. The wealth they had briefly enjoyed had vanished, leaving them with nothing but the stigma of Tari's crime. Adana, once a simple trader, now faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives. She returned to selling vegetables in the market, but many villagers shunned her stall, whispering and pointing as she passed. Her children, Amina and her two brothers, Chidi and Emika, faced similar treatment at school. One sweltering afternoon, as Adana struggled to sell her wilting produce, an old woman approached her stall. The woman's eyes were milky with cataracts, but her voice was strong. "Your husband's actions have brought a curse upon this village," she croaked. "Only you can lift it." Adana's heart raced. "What do you mean, mother? How can I lift a curse?" The old woman leaned in close, her breath smelling of herbs and decay. "Seek the Cave of Whispers in the Forbidden Forest. There, you'll find the key to your family's redemption." Before Adana could ask more, the old woman vanished into the crowd. That night, as her children slept, Adana pondered the strange encounter. The Forbidden Forest was a place of legends, said to be home to spirits and creatures beyond imagination. No one had ventured there in living memory. Driven by desperation and a glimmer of hope, Adana made a decision. She would seek out the Cave of Whispers, no matter the cost. The next morning, she entrusted her children to her sister and set off towards the forest, armed only with a small knife and her unwavering determination. As Adana entered the Forbidden Forest, the air grew thick and heavy. Strange sounds echoed around her, whispers, giggles, and occasionally, blood-curdling screams. She pushed on, her heart pounding in her chest. After hours of walking, she stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood an ancient tree, its bark twisted into the shape of a face. To her shock, the tree's eyes opened, fixing her with a penetrating gaze. "Who dares enter my domain?" the tree boomed. Adana fell to her knees. "Great Spirit, I seek the Cave of Whispers to lift the curse on my family and village." The tree's expression softened. "Your heart is pure, Adana, but the path ahead is treacherous. Are you willing to face your deepest fears?" "I am," Adana replied without hesitation. "Then step into my trunk," the tree commanded, its bark splitting open to reveal a dark passage. Taking a deep breath, Adana entered the tree. She found herself in a shadowy realm, surrounded by mist. Suddenly, the mist coalesced into familiar shapes, her children crying out in pain. "Mama, help us!" they screamed. Adana's instinct was to run to them, but she remembered the tree's words. "These are not my children," she said firmly. "They are an illusion." The mist dissipated, revealing a narrow path. Adana followed it, facing more illusions. Tari begging for forgiveness, the villagers calling for her death, and even visions of herself succumbing to darkness. Each time she steeled herself and pushed through. Finally, she emerged from the tree, finding herself before a yawning cave mouth. Whispers emanated from within, some enticing, others terrifying. Gathering her courage, Adana entered the Cave of Whispers. Inside, she found herself in a vast chamber filled with floating orbs of light. Each orb contained a memory, some her own, others belonging to the villagers, and even some from Tari. She realized that these were the collective experiences and emotions of her entire community. A voice spoke from everywhere and nowhere. "To lift the curse, you must take the pain of others upon yourself. Are you willing to bear this burden?" Adana hesitated for only a moment before answering. "Yes, I am." Suddenly, the orbs rushed towards her, entering her body. She felt a lifetime of pain, sorrow, and regret wash over her. She screamed, falling to her knees as the emotions threatened to overwhelm her. But amidst the pain, she found strength. She saw the connections between all the villagers, the shared experiences that bound them together. She understood that their rejection of her family came from their own fear and pain. As the last orb entered her, Adana felt a profound sense of peace. She had taken on the village's collective pain, and in doing so, had transformed it into understanding and compassion. When she emerged from the cave, days had passed. She returned to the village, changed both inside and out. Her hair had turned white, and her eyes held a wisdom beyond her years. The villagers, sensing the change in her, gathered around. Adana spoke to them, her voice resonating with newfound power. She shared the insights she had gained, helping them understand their shared humanity and the futility of hatred and blame. Moved by her words and the tangible aura of peace that surrounded her, the villagers began to let go of their anger. They embraced Adana and her children, vowing to rebuild their community on a foundation of forgiveness and understanding. Word of the transformation spread, reaching even the prison where Tari was held. The king, hearing of the miracle, decided to visit the village himself. Impressed by the change he witnessed, he made a proclamation. Tari's crime was great, the king announced, but the power of forgiveness is greater still. I hereby commute his sentence. He will return to the village, not as a free man, but to work alongside his neighbors in rebuilding what was broken. Tari returned, humbled and remorseful. Under Adana's guidance, he dedicated himself to serving the community. Together, they worked to transform the village into a beacon of hope and reconciliation. Years passed, and the village flourished. The story of Adana's journey and the village's transformation spread far and wide. People came from distant lands to learn from them, and the village became known as a place of healing and wisdom. Amina, now a young woman, took up her mother's mantle as a healer and mediator. Chidi became a teacher, spreading the values of empathy and understanding. Emeka, the youngest, grew into a skilled craftsman, creating beautiful works that told the story of their family's journey. As for Chief Azuka, he was eventually found in a distant land, living in misery despite his ill-gotten wealth. Brought before the king, he expected harsh punishment. Instead, inspired by the village's example, the king sentenced him to learn the true meaning of wealth by living and working alongside those he had once deceived. The forbidden forest, once a place of fear, became a sanctuary. The great tree spirit and the cave of whispers remained, offering wisdom to those brave enough to seek it. But few needed to make the journey, for the lessons of compassion and forgiveness were now woven into the fabric of the village itself. And so, a story that began with greed and betrayal transformed into a tale of redemption, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love. The village stood as a testament to the idea that even the darkest curse can be lifted when people open their hearts and stand together. Adana, her family, and the villagers had discovered a truth more valuable than any earthly riches. That true wealth lies not in gold or possessions, but in the bonds we forge with one another and the love we share. And that perhaps was the greatest magic of all. Who dares enter my domain?